Hey folks, Jimmy Smith here to own my picks for the UFC Saudi Arabia card. I went, if you saw my breakdown video, which I hope you did, because if you did and you listened to me, you made money, because I picked across the board almost every upset on that card, except for Muhammad Naimov. Other than that, I went with all underdogs, and I was only wrong once. So if you listened to me, you made some money. You're welcome. So, going to go over them. So I'm going to do a drive-by, basically, of the first three before we kind of get into the meat of the card itself. But Muhammad Naimov over Khan Ofli. I'm sorry. I picked Naimov. I thought he was physically a little too much for Ofli, a little too much experience. That's exactly what happened. He ground out a unanimous decision. I think the only favorite I picked on this was Naimov. I thought this was matched pretty well for him, and I was right. So he wins unanimous decision. Great. So Mike Davis, Faraz Ziam. What I said in the original breakdown was these guys are too evenly matched. Whoever you can get points on, get the odds on, that's who you take, and that was Faraz Ziam. He was the slight underdog in this fight. I took him. Not a lot of logic to it. I just went, hey, in a coin flip fight, see where you can make money. That's Faraz Ziam. He wins once again by unanimous decision. A big one of the upsets, Vinicius Oliveira versus Said Nurmagomedov. Just a lot of people enamored with the Nurmagomedov name for obvious reasons. They can fight. But I got to go with Oliveira in this one. I thought he was going to get the win, and he did. Outworked Said Nurmagomedov. His timing was a little bit better. He wins a unanimous decision. So if you haven't noticed a theme here, 3 fights, 3 unanimous decisions, and I'm 3-0 for my first 3 picks. Yay! All right. And 2 of them were upsets. So the one upset I picked that ended up not working, Sergey Pavlovich over Yair Rozenstruik. Look, I thought with 2 heavy hitters, having lost 2 in a row, it might be time for Rozenstruik to get some kickboxing going and get a win. That was not what happened. Sergey Pavlovich went to his ground game and ground out a decision. Very little stand-up involved in this. Rozenstruik doesn't really have any ground game to speak of. And even a fighter that has a decent ground game, the number of heavyweights with dangerous guards, you can count on one hand. Frank Mir, Minotauro had a very, very good guard. Fedor has a good guard, had. Verdum, that's about it. Not a lot of heavyweights out there with dangerous guards. When a heavyweight gets on top of you, most of the time you are in big trouble. All right, so that's what happened. Sergey Pavlovich able to take down Rozenstruik, not make it a striking fest at all. It led to a really boring fight. It was not particularly entertaining, but still a unanimous decision for Sergey Pavlovich, so I'm wrong for the first time. So 3-1 on the card. Now, let's get into the nitty-gritty of the co-main and main event. I picked upsets on both of them. Michael Venom Page over Shara Bullet by unanimous decision. I just think he's too hittable. I've said this about Shara Bullet from the beginning. He walks into a lot of punches. He just does. The nature of his style is you hit me, I hit you. I hit harder, I win. Well, MVP doesn't play that game, right? He has a karate combat kind of style where he stays on the outside, goes in 1-2, and then he's out or he moves. It's very hard to get exchanges with him. If you do, you can beat him. But he doesn't exchange that much. He hits you and then he's gone. His ability to stay outside of range is really impressive. He darts in and out very, very quickly, very light on his feet. And he tagged Shara Bullet up from beginning to end. Ended up winning a unanimous decision victory, but it was Shara Bullet just comes in without a lot of head movement. And a lot of times his style is kind of wide open, hands kind of low. He doesn't have the speed for that kind of style. So against MVP, you saw that speed disparity, and it bit him. Now, an important thing to keep in mind is this fight was in the middleweight division. MVP's a better 170, and he still beat Shara Bullet. He does not have 185-pound power, generally speaking. So unless he catches you running into something, he's going to outpoint you. But this wasn't his best weight class at all. Despite being 6'3", he does better at 170, and he still tuned up Shara Bullet. I think one judge gave Shara Bullet the 3rd round. That's it. Now, I know what a lot of you are going to say. He had horrific injuries coming in. Shara Bullet talked about how bad the camp was. And guys, I unless it's like TJ Dillashaw where pops out immediately and it's the reason for the fight, fighters sign on the dotted line that they are okay. Everything's fine. There's a whole checklist of injuries and sicknesses and illnesses, and they all check no, 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 no. They sign it, they get in the octagon, and win or lose, afterward, I was a mess. Oh my God, I had this problem, that problem. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm not saying you're lying. I'm just saying, look, once you get in there, the idea that, afterward I'm going to go, well, yeah, this, and that. Look, we don't know what MVP had. We don't know what this other fighter had. When you get in there, I have to assume, as a pundit, that you are 100% ready to go. And if you lose, it's on you. And he lost, and it's on him. Also, I didn't see anything that I thought, oh, man, he's got a bad fill in the blank. That's why he keeps getting hit. His style is one in which he walks into a lot of damage, which is why I don't think he's elite, really. And MVP was just the first guy to catch him coming in with enough power and not be there at the end to get hit. So really impressive performance by MVP. He gave an interview, and he said, look, the UFC, nerves are a real thing, all right, coming into the UFC. So I got to find my footing, and I'm starting to believe I'm really great. So he's going to have to go through another phase in his career, although he's 37 years old, and he did come into the UFC with a win over Kevin Holland. He's still kind of finding his legs. And this was a big step forward, beating up Shara Bullet, wins the unanimous decision. Now, on the main card, all decisions, which can lead to a long night. But main event was not. I went with the upset on Nasruddin Imavov over Israel Adesanya. I didn't think it would be by knockout in round 2. I didn't think it would go this way, but it did. 30 seconds into round 2, by the way. So Dana White said for the first round, Israel Adesanya looked better than he ever has. I thought he looked good. At his absolute best, he just God modes people and knocks them out. So he looked good. He looked solid. He did not look like the Israel Adesanya whose debut I called in Perth, Australia. He didn't look like that guy. He looked good for the first round, right? He won the first round solidly. Timing looked good. Everything looked good. But then under duress, right? Moving backwards, bang, he gets knocked out in round number 2. One of the problems with a style like Israel Adesanya, and the way I used to teach MMA was, if you have your hands up and your chin down and your posture's good and your footwork's good, you don't have to see every single punch. If you do this, right, and you shell up well and you're tight and everything, you don't have to read every single punch coming at you. Izzy's style is very, very tall. It's a little bit loose. It's a little bit wide. What you rely on is your ability to see punches coming and slip and move and get out of the way. And that tends to go really early in your fight career. It tends to be one of the first things to go is speed and timing. I would say timing more than speed. But that ability to read and react. The mark of a great fighter is how little you miss by. Meaning they're never so far out that they're out of play. They can't come back with a shot. The really great fighters, really great defensive fighters of all time, Floyd Mayweather, Pernell Whitaker, whoever you think it is, you miss by a hair, so they're right back in play with their counter shot. And that just takes a lot. It takes a lot of repetition. It's got to be real sharp, and it tends to leave, and you can't get it back. Anderson Silva is a great example. As soon as that read and react timing left, he just went off a cliff and lost and lost and lost and lost. If you're fundamentally sound, but you're not that quick, you don't rely on a lot of timing, you can fight for a long time. Jim Miller is a great example of a guy hands up, chin down, fundamentally really sound. He's not great by any stretch of the imagination, but he's still fighting now because it wasn't like he relied on a skill set that ages poorly. Izzy did. So at 35, he's having trouble reading punches and reacting the way he used to in his absolute prime. Also, he has this tendency to go straight back under attack, and he tends to stand kind of tall, so you end up kind of doing this. And if you looked at the Dricus du Plessis fight and this fight, under duress, he tends to go back square and tall. So if you follow up with a big shot, a big overhand, big left hook, you can catch him. Jose Torres, great boxer back in the day, said Customato taught him it's like being on a train track. Don't try to outrun the train going backwards. Get off the track, right? Go left, go right. He said the only guy who could keep going back and the train would never hit him was Muhammad Ali. He was so quick that he'd go boom, 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 and you'd never, even with that big overhand or big left hook, you'd never catch him. But it's a habit certain fighters get into, and Israel Adesanya has gotten into that habit of moving back under duress. Thai fighters do it, but they snap back. They kind of, you miss, and then boom, they're back with their shot. So what's his future now? Izzy, now that he's lost to Nasruddin Imavov. Oh, and by the way, for my picks, if you're keeping track, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1 on the night. And I picked all upsets except for the Naimov fight. So, good night for me. So, the history of Israel Adesanya tells me that he's kind of done. Why? Fighters never get out at the right time, by the way. They never get out exactly when they should. This is a guy who came into the UFC looking absolutely fantastic, became an all-time great, became middleweight champion. He's now lost 3 in a row, and he's lost 4 out of his last 5. Now, those were to Alex Pereira, Sean Strickland, Dricus du Plessis, and now Nassourdine Imavov. The Imavovs of the world you have to beat to stay in this and be considered a contender. Imavov is a fringe contender, like maybe one more and he's in there. Or if they need somebody quickly, he would be someone they would turn to. He's not a surefire, oh my God, this guy's going to be champion. Like a Khamzat Chimaev, he's just blowing guys away. Nassourdine Imavov is of that level, of that contender caliber. But that's a guy you have to beat to stay relevant at 185 pounds, and he lost to him by knockout. The difficulty is, and why fighters don't quit, is they still make good money losing or being a mid-level guy or all this stuff, because his contract amount doesn't change now he's losing. So he's still, once they renegotiate, you might have a problem. But he's still making big money fighting. He still has the sponsorships. He's still huge. He's still a big name. But he'll never be champion again. He won't. Right? You don't get better, you get worse. And so the problem is he's starting to lose to guys that I think in his prime he blows away. And the losses start piling up and you aren't you. And then you start what they call playing on tilt, right? You're just trying to get back the money you lost at the table. And that never works out for a fighter. Never. If he's smart and he has the right people around him and he's put away money the way he should have, this is it. I'd retire. I'm not going to be champion. Sure, I can have some more fights maybe, but I'm not going to be what I was. And if your goal is to be champion, I don't think Izzy gets there. So an all-time great right now at 185. I'd probably put him second behind Anderson Silva. Take that legacy and go. Too many people ruin it sticking around. Now, if he needs the money, he's going to stick in there and fight. But as far as the glory of going forward and doing great things, those days are done. Nassourdine Imavov looked good. He, as I said, is of challenger level. But the timing doesn't work out for him in terms of you have Dricus du Plessis, Sean Strickland. Let's say they have another close one. You might have a trilogy. Then you have Khamzat. So he's probably third in line at this point. And so there's going to have to be another fight somewhere in there, and he's going to have to look and comparatively impressive and win. So 1 or 2 more, and Imavov is there. But right now, I think he's not going to get a title shot until at least middle of this year. So anyway, talk to you soon. Appreciate you. Keep the comments coming, and I'll be back for the first fight.